Conclusione in rete, Andrea Pirlo, un gol pazzesco! Del Piero, no! Alex Del Piero! La compagna di Pogacar, Pogba, rete! Un gol incredibile! Pogba fa esplodere lo Juventus Stadium!
All right. Welcome, everyone, to Turin Giants episode 287. My name is Zach, and I'm joined here with our good friends Federico and Damiano. How you doing, guys?
Doing good.
Doing good, man. Thanks.
Like we always say, it's always better to talk after a win, and that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be breaking down the Verona match as well as looking at what that might mean for the season ahead. But before we do that, housekeeping as always. You can find us on all of your podcast platforms, your Spotify, your Apple, and all the other ones. We're specifically going to plug the YouTube because we've been restarting our YouTube, trying to get those subscribers that we had in the past back. So please, if you haven't followed us there, we would really appreciate it. As well as if you could take a second, give us say a 5-star rating on Spotify or the like. We appreciate that as well. You can check out some of our merch as well as more information about the podcast at turngiants.com. And we are very active on Instagram. I have some pretty fire reels up lately as well. So check us out on Instagram at Turn Giants. And please submit questions or message us directly on there. Farhad is very active, reads those, he tracks those, and he gives suggestions for the podcast for us to answer those live on air and shout y'all out for contributing. So please do so. All right, I believe, and I'm not so polished with the housekeeping, guys, but I think I got everything. So let's jump into the game. Again, we're talking Verona. From a scoreline perspective, comfortable 2-0 victory. But we're going to find out soon if the guys here were quite as comfortable as they watched the match. Because I think there was definitely some folks out there wondering if it would just be not our night. Before we get into that, Frederic, let's just think about the starting lineup. We have no other competitions. We have just Serie A. And so you figure the need for rotation is probably gone, right? Play your best 11 here on out. Is the team that we saw starting this game the best healthy 11 that we could have put out there?
I think so at this point. But the question that begs at this point is, will you keep those players in the same positions? I think that's some of the things that's been missing lately in our games. You play people out of their positions and lowering their quality on the pitch. And today was an example. Mota didn't do that today, and it helped the team, as you could see, and also keeping Koopmeiners. I know we scored. Don't roast me, but keeping him on the bench actually gave us an extra spark, because often I feel that if Koopmeiners is in the starting lineup, it feels like we're playing with 10 against 11. So I think after all consideration, I think Mota made the best choices today.
Well, Damiano, you called for the Thuram Locatelli pivot, and we saw that starting from today. What was, not getting into what ended up happening, was this what you were calling for? Was this what you wanted to see? Were you happy to finally see that starting? And what did you expect from that midfield today before we got into the match?
I mean, definitely what I wanted. It proved to, it showed that they work good together. They're a good, group, tandem of midfielders that they really, I was excited to see them both out there. Yeah, for sure. Koopmeiners, I was definitely glad, as Federic said, couldn't agree more. Totally glad to see him on the bench for sure. I think that he's gotten too much time, more than he's deserved. But yeah, Kevin Turam and Locatelli, they went out there, man, and I was happy to see from the beginning of the game that Mota finally got some sense and to put him in. I would have liked to have seen, I think that Imbangula has dropped off a little bit playing time wise. I mean, I'm not saying I would want him to start, but I think he should have also gotten a little bit. These past couple games he's been kind of MIA, and he's not. From what I know, he's not hurt. So it was good to see him, even though he got some minutes today as well.
Well, then you actually bring up a good point, because when I asked Frederic, is this our best 11? I think really the only main question for me, I think a lot of us would take Kolomwani over Vlahovic. I think a lot of us felt that Koop Miners needed to stay on the bench for a game or two just to kind of restart and refresh. From a defense standpoint, there's very little alternative options, right? Kalulu's still coming back, Costa's still fresh. I think the one remaining option was, especially with Conceição now going down injured, is does Mbangula or Nico start in the winger position? Because it seemed like Yildiz was probably going to get that. And are you saying that you would have preferred Mbangula to start over Nico Gonzalez?
To be honest, I mean, the way Nico Gonzalez, he hasn't been really showing me much these past few games. Maybe he's tired. I'm not too sure. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen it to start. But at the same time, it wasn't like a make or break. I think the main thing I was really concerned about was the midfielders. But yes.
Alrighty, Frederic, let's actually jump into the game. This first half reminded me a lot of the Cagliari game just a few games ago, where it was just chance after chance after chance after chance. And we go into halftime 0-0. The commentators were putting a lot of emphasis on Montipo. Is it more the keeper in this scenario, or was it us just not really making good chances out of our opportunities?
Well, I think we had a number of chances in that first half, and after the heat of the moment, if you look back and you analyze those chances, I think it was clear to see that the finishing wasn't top notch. I think if you have a clinical finisher and those chances, I think you can go into halftime with a 3 or 4 goal lead, to be honest. So it was a mix of both. I think the goalkeeper played a decent game. I think he did as well in the home leg when we played in Verona. But like I said, if you have some quality behind those finishing touches, then it shouldn't be an issue. So to me, it's a mixture of both.
Damiano, what's your take?
I mean, yeah, we could have even gone down 1-0 by halftime. That was, that first half was, we played good. We should have put some in the net, and we didn't. And we come, clearly offside. But I mean, I was got a little worried going into halftime there. We've seen it so many times this year where we're close, but we don't finish. It's like we can't get it, and then we end up late in the game. Either we need a 2-goal lead, or we got to finish. We just got to finish because it could come back to haunt us. So I was a little worried going into halftime.
You're definitely touching on some of the anxiety that we'll talk about when we get to the second half. But I kind of want to take a look at how we were playing, because from an energy standpoint and a tactical standpoint, I felt like from an energy standpoint, Damiano, we ran hard that entire first half.
Definitely. I mean, we did. We played pretty good. We just couldn't finish. We had the heart was there.
I mean, Frederic, you've at times, said this team has lacked that heart. I mean, was this the type of heart that you wanted to see from them when it comes to effort?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it was pretty plain to see that the words Mota after the Empoli game at his press conference, the words he uttered, I think they were well received by the players, and also the fact that the supporters and Kuvasud and Drugi and such are basically, I don't know, are on strike. I don't know a decent term how to put it, but I think that is a message, although I'm not convinced about the timing. But I think those two things really touched the players, and you could see that at the beginning of the first half. There was more intent to score, there was more proactiveness, more passion, which ultimately leads to these occasions because given the fact that Hellas is a pretty weak side, you still have to score these goals. You cannot win if you don't score, and it all starts with the effort because we're a team that's trying to grow, and we have to put our heart in first in every game and build up some confidence that leads to players preparing to take a shot or preparing that through ball or whatever. And I think that's the basics of this Juventus or what this team needs at the moment in order to get in results. So, kudos to Mota for his speech or whatever he's done to the players, because there was a significant difference with the way they played with regards to the Empoli game.
So from the way I'll describe our formation. So this is getting into the second part of the way we played. It was kind of a two back. We were pushing Verona in so deep. We had the two center backs back. We then had Cambiaso, Thuram, Locatelli. So a 2-3. We then had 4 across ahead of them, I should say, with Nico out wide left. You had McKennie, Yildiz, who pinched in from the right and played behind the striker for I think his entire time on the pitch. And then you had Weah out wide with Colomwani up top. Very offensive, very attacking, very sort of half-court set type of pressure. Did you like how Mota, Frederic, did you like how he set up that team? And do you think, obviously we didn't convert those chances in the first half, but do you think that's a reusable way to set our team up moving forward?
I think that depends on the opponent as well, because you knew in advance that Hellas has one of the worst stats in Serie A this season. I think if you play against a team with a compact midfield and strikers that are light on their feet, so to speak, this could also get you into trouble, because we were left pretty exposed in the back at times. But given the sterility of the attack of Verona, didn't matter as much. But I think if you play a stronger opponent, like a mid-table team, this could prove to be very difficult, given also our defense strategies lately. So this is what would surprise me most, that Mota really looked at the team they were playing against, at the opponents, and molded his team in order to get the best result out of that game. And that was something that was lacking, because I've said this numerous times in the podcast, Mota always clings on to his typical formation and his typical type starting lineup. And this was the first time that you could see that he basically tinkered a bit with the formation and the way the team played. And, the result is there. So kudos to him again. But I guess this needs some information, I think, for the future.
Yeah, Damiano, I would be a little stressed if we tried to play exactly this way against Atalanta next week, wouldn't you?
Definitely. Yeah, I think to touch on Frederic's point. I mean, yeah, spot on. It would be nice if Mota could, actually adapt to the opponent and put out the best team and the best formation would be ideal. I mean, that's what we expect from him. It's I do not expect to see the same style formation or players out there today that that played today against Atalanta. So I hope he puts a better or puts a different tactical mindset to it and adjust to the opponent.
Yeah, I mean, from a personnel standpoint, I don't see too much that you would change.
Definitely not the midfield.
Yeah, no. You probably keep the midfield the same. Depending on who's healthy, you might keep the attackers the same. I think one change you could see, and this is not a reflection of Weah's play because I think he's been fantastic, but you might see Kalulu come into the starting lineup either for Cambiaso or for Weah to then have more of that back 3 in possession as opposed to the back 2 we've been seeing. And that frees up Locatelli from having to be that third center back and can stay in the midfield to pressure Atalanta's midfield. So it'll be curious to see what the players are, because I don't expect a huge change, but it'll even be more curious to see how Mota like y'all have been saying, how he, if and whether he does at all, adapts to the opposition come next week. But that's in the future. Let's talk about the second half. So we talked about the first half. It was just a story of missed chances. Second half, we come out, I think, with a similar energy. Wouldn't you say, Damiano? No, none of the sluggishness that we've been seeing.
Yeah, definitely a second half that's been different compared to the last past week, where against PSV and Empoli, where it was just abysmal. But yeah, it's definitely a huge. We came out playing. I mean, I wouldn't say we were like, it was like what a 100% great, but it was better. It was a lot better than what we've seen lately. So I'll take it. And we came out and we played pretty good. We won that half, and ultimately the game.
Frederick, be honest with me. At what minute were you starting to feel a little stressed?
60th.
Oh, when Coop came on? When Coop came on?
No, just prior to that, I believe we were in the group chat message. But prior to me sending out a message, I don't even know what the message was, but I had this eerie feeling like, oh no, it's going to happen again, isn't it? And at that point, I think my wife entered the living room as well. And I told her, I said, honey, oh no, not again. You're gonna be upset tomorrow as well. I said, yeah, it's a likely scenario, to be honest. And I also started, and this is something that's inherent with me, but I started dozing off a bit. Like the adrenaline was not there anymore, not as tangible as in the first half. And that's when that feeling, overcame me, and I was like, okay, we're gonna shit the bed again. We're gonna do it again, and I was very relieved when I saw that goal in the, what was it, 72nd minute?
72nd, yeah.
Yeah, I was really relieved, and I didn't see them getting back because of their sterility in attack once again. I mean, they didn't put together one decent attack apart from a few fumbles in the first half.
Yeah.
So I was pretty confident back then, but I have to agree, 60th minute up until 72nd, I was scared.
Well, let's talk about that 60th minute. So it's still 0-0, and we do our first subs, and a game that we need to win. Every game for the rest of the season is a must-win, right? Your subs are in 60th minute. Coop Miners, your out of form midfielder. And let's be honest, or at least in my opinion, I didn't see what he was going to bring to the game better than the midfield we had out there. Do either of you disagree with me?
Not at all.
Okay, and then your second change is Alberto Costa. Now, nothing about this is a reflection of my opinion of him as a player, because we just haven't seen him. But it's a game you must win. Guy's got 10 minutes his whole season with us so far. And you bring him on for Timmy Weah, who's been, I think, a very effective piece, a very dangerous piece on the right. It didn't really strike me in the 60th minute that those are the changes you make when you're trying to go for the game. Do you guys agree with that? What did you feel like when you saw those names coming off, McKennie and Weah, and when you saw the names coming on?
I mean, the names coming on, like you said about Costa, we haven't really seen much of them. Weah just, I think, if I'm not mistaken, right before he got subbed off, fired a shot pretty close.
Yep.
It looked like, and it gave me a little hope that we, even though it didn't go in, but it was kind of something that could show a sign of some spark maybe. But yeah, so to take him out and then just to bring in Cope Miners, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm kind of done. I'm done with Cope Miners at this point of the season. He hasn't, regardless of the goal, but I mean, still though, I mean, he does not, I don't feel comfortable with him on at all. He doesn't do much for me personally.
Well, let's, when you talk about sterility and attack and Coop Miners, I've got a trivia question for you guys. Or we'll go true false again, because I know Damiano's my true false guy I pick on. So Damiano, true or false? Coop Miners, who came on in the 60th minute, and who a couple of folks in our Turin Giants chat said, has he even touched the ball? True or false? Coop Miners would be Verona's top passer for the game.
I think last time I went false and yeah, it was true. So I'm just going to go true.
They're always true, Damiano. That's just a spoiler for you. He would be tied for the top passer for Verona at 16 completed passes. I mean, when you talk about a team like we've been there before, where we give up an 80-minute equalizer, right? Because the other team gets a lucky counter. I mean, we had almost 80% possession the whole game. They completed no passes. It was shocking to me that Coop Miners, who wasn't terribly involved after coming on, obviously scored the goal we'll talk about in a sec, but that he would be tied for their top passer is just, I think, a reflection of their presence in the game. And that kind of goes into what we're going to talk about next is right after the goal is that Juventus actually kind of closed out another victory pretty cleanly. But before we do that, we have to talk about this goal because Thuram, I think, owed us one. After that tame effort in the first half, where he should have scored, I think he owed us one, and he made right here. So you had the long play. Nico Gonzalez ends up keeping the ball in play, does a terrible cross. It comes back to him. He gives it to Yildiz, who give it to Loca. Loca plays it into Colomwani, who plays it back to Locatelli. Yildiz then makes a fantastic run into the box, freeing up the channel for Cambiasso to get that pass from Locatelli, slots in a beautiful cross, and Thuram this time makes no doubt about it. That was a really well-worked team goal, Frederic, wasn't it?
It was good to see because it's been a while since we saw a goal of that caliber, I think, in our Juve matches. And it's a goal that we mustn't underestimate because there are three technical and quality-wise, very, very acts of high standards, to be honest. Because, like for one, you saw that Yildiz run into the box, and I think he took two men with him with that run, freeing up, as you said, the way for Cambiasso, who pretty intelligently kept his position there, knowing that. I hope he knew that Yildiz was making that run. The quality of the pass that Cambiasso delivers, because I think the box was overcrowded with people at that point.
Oh yeah,
But he could still pick out Thuram, who also made a very nice running back, I think a bit away from the penalty spot to close into Cambiasso's pass. And then, of course, the finishing touch by Thuram, because it was by no means an easy shot to take. I think the shot he took in the first half, the chance he had, was way easier than the one he took right now. But he kept his pace, he kept his composure, and finished it beautifully. And it was a sight for sore eyes, that goal, I have to agree.
I think this is what kind of punctuates your point, Damiano, doesn't it? That, I mean, when you talk about the key players in that, you're looking at Locatelli and Thuram as key links in that chain to make that goal happen. Is that just validation that this is the midfield we should be seeing forever and always, at least the rest of the season?
I mean, yeah, that's the cherry on top. I mean, there's definitely the good foundation that there's pretty, they're a solid tandem for sure. And they've been progressing as the season's been going when they play together. It's been mind-boggling why they haven't been.
So moving on
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Frederic. Go ahead.
You guys know that I've been a fan of Thuram since the beginning of the season, or since when I joined the podcast. And I could clearly see the potential, and it's good to see that he's using that potential right now, and also has the confidence to make certain runs, certain plays, which I felt in the first half of the season he was lacking a bit. And that's why he was always, there were meh performances, but, he rose above that, and he's giving us some solid, very solid performances, even making Farhad a believer, I read somewhere. So
yeah, we know Farhad hates Thuram. But I think it's fair criticism. Maybe not criticism is the right word, but it's a fair comment that for the majority of this season, the thing lacking about his game was the finishing touch, whether it be finishing as like shooting, but also finishing sometimes with his pass, because there's no question in his ability to win the ball. to outbody people, to just dribble through entire teams. Like, he's been doing that consistently from day one. But that final pass or that final shot just always, it was wasn't always lacking. It was just really inconsistent. I think would you agree that we're starting to see the signs of that consistency growing in his final touch?
Yeah, I mean, he had a goal last week, and he has a goal this week. You know, both pretty nice goals. So, I mean, granted, not all the touches are beautiful, but still, though, he's putting at least, putting some in. He's doing good, I think. He's progressing.
He's a diamond in the rough for me, and you can also see the way that he comes when he moves out of midfield to get in that more attacking position. You feel so confident that he, like you said, he can take on that extra guy just outside the box, but also doing that, liberating other players who can then make intelligent runs into the box or out wide. And that is something that we've been lacking, because it gives us, attacking wise, it gives us more depth. Because I think we touched on the subject as well, that we're always playing the ball wide, and then we pull up some shit crosses and nothing happens. And having Turin coming out of that midfield very aggressively, very with an attacking mindset and the capability to bring some players with him and free the way for others, I think that's a huge asset to have in our team at this point.
And you kind of mentioned it, right? The goal came through play in the middle. Like, yes, it kicked out wide to Nico, but the key interchanges, Locatelli, Colomani, Locatelli, Cambiasso, Turin, was all in the middle of the field. And I think let's just touch on briefly the other midfielder there, because I think we saw Locatelli play higher up today than maybe the entire season. And that's probably partially a product of Verona's just deep set positioning. But we saw him get up, Frederic, way higher, have a couple shots, get in the box, try to dribble a couple of people, which, well, we don't need to really talk about. But do you think that, would you want to see Locatelli play that high up on a regular basis, or maybe this was just a match specific style for him?
I think Luca, because I'm not the biggest fan of Locatelli as a player, to be honest, but I think if you want him to play in his full effectiveness, he needs to play a bit higher. And not that he's bad defense-wise or anything, but you can see with the movement that he makes and the ability to free up a lot of space with few touches, comparable with the greats like Pirlo, but he has that ability, and if you put him more in the back of the play, then you kind of take that away from him and also sterilize the team a bit in attack. So I think for me personally, I'd love to see that happen. On the other hand, our defensive stability isn't all that great, right? So I can also understand why Mota hasn't played more as an extra center back, to be honest, or whatever we need to call it, or just behind that midfield, because you need to have that defensive stability as well. But for me personally, I'd rather see him play more up front. Yeah.
Damiani, do you agree?
Yeah, I think when we got him from Sassuolo, and like even when he played for Italy, like he's more of a box to box. He was like less. He kind of got developed into a defensive role under Allegri more so, I think. So I think that, yeah, I agree. I think he would shine a little bit more if he was playing a little up more, playing more up. But he has developed at least more defensively as time's gone on. So I mean, it depends on the like you said, depends on the opponent, because sometimes we need that a little bit, him to be back a little bit because of the defensive stability. However, I think he would shine more if he played up.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you guys. I think Locatelli just seems more comfortable further back. I think today at times, and I thought he had a great game, but I think at times he was a little bit haphazard with his touch, because when you play further up, you're playing closer passes, right? He's not his long sprays. Got to be a little bit quicker on your feet. He's really not the quickest or the fastest guy in the world, and it put him in a couple awkward situations. In that type of situation, I would prefer he played deeper, and someone like Douglas Luiz actually be in that position where he's very comfortable in close spaces. He's got very good balance. He's got very accurate close passing. And I think he would be more comfortable in that pseudo free or role, or that more Mazzala role in our midfield, especially when you have someone like Locatelli behind to provide that coverage, which I believe is more so that type of role he had at Aston Villa last year. But I know that Douglas Luiz, we haven't been able to see the best of him. Do you guys see that? Do you guys see what I'm seeing, or do you stick to your guns?
In regards to Douglas Luiz, I think so, because I think that the reason why he hasn't been shining so much is because he has not been given that same style of role that he had in Villa. But at the same time, I mean, like, yeah, if that's the case for him and Luiz, then yeah, I think Luis's potential has not been revealed yet, or like he hasn't played to his fullest potential at Juve because of that reason.
It's my biggest disappointment of the season. I had very high expectations of Douglas Luiz. Followed him a lot last season, and I really thought that this was like a wonderful transfer for us. And I failed to see as to why he hasn't been performing as he should be. But I 100%
injuries.
agree with
It's got to be injuries, though, right? I mean, the guy can't stay healthy, which is strange because he doesn't really have a long injury career or history, but he hasn't stayed fit for us. Like, how can we even? It's hard to judge his play, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But then I also look a bit further and deeper, and I see that a lot of players are suffering from a lot of injuries, which they haven't been in the past. So that begs the question: is there something wrong with our preparation, with our training methods? I mean, let's not get into that. But if we could have like a fit Douglas Luiz in shape and adapted to the team, I think we'd be 25 to 30% stronger than we are now.
All right, so we're gonna give you a question here, both of you guys. We're gonna go to Frederick first. Based on only what you've seen this year, would you take Douglas Luiz or Coop in your midfield?
Douglas Luiz.
Damiano.
I mean, what have we seen from Coop? I mean, we've seen.
I'm asking the guy who said he's done with him.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
okay.
I was
bit biased there. Bit biased.
Yeah.
Well, it's gotta ask the question, but I'm not surprised by the answer. Yeah, I think in Douglas Luiz's case, and why I brought this up in the first place, because obviously he didn't play today, was it sort of struck me when I was watching Locatelli today that would be the perfect way to utilize what we have seen from Douglas Luiz this year, albeit in inconsistent minutes. I'm still not convinced. I'm not at Damiano's level of done with Coop, right? But I have yet to see him play in a game and in a role where I'm like, that is the player or the role that we got Coop for. I just haven't seen that moment yet, and so I would agree with you that Douglas Luiz would be my preferential choice until we can see Coop finally, I don't know, sync with the position or a role or something on the pitch. I'm not convinced with him either. Shall we move on to after the first goal? Sorry, I digressed on the Douglas Luiz thing, but I think the best thing about that, at least in my opinion, for the following 18 minutes after our goal in the 72nd, was that Verona never threatened us. We never saw that risk of choking away our lead like we did so much in the first half of the season. Was that more of a product, Damiano, of Verona's just how deep they've been playing all game, or was that maybe a little sign of maturity coming from the Juventus squad?
Maybe a little bit of both, I would say. It was good that we weren't we didn't allow them to, push up and actually start attacking, which we've kind of done in the past. We kind of just after a goal, we start sitting back and then allow the opposition to come to us. So it was good that we didn't do that. But at the same time, I think, their game plan was to not concede. Let's sit back. And, once that happened, it was kind of, we still kept, they didn't really have much of a game plan after that.
Same question to you, Frederic. Is it more Verona or more the maybe some maturation on Juventus's part?
I think, I feel that it's pretty much Verona, not as much Juventus, to be honest. Because if you look at the statistics from Verona this season, they're abysmal. It's an abysmal side. Head nor tail on it. Almost, I think they have lost more points or conceded more goals than last place ranked teams at this point in the Serie A.
Yeah, they're
But
14th, but yes, they have just to give you the numbers. They are 14th in the table, but they have conceded the most goals in Serie A at 56, and I don't know. I think it's 10 more than the next team. So yes, they are pretty leaky.
yeah, they're pretty leaky to say the least, and you could see that they could never regroup after during a counter or during build-up play after they gained possession, like the 20% they had. Like we said, it's going to be a different game against Atalanta. And also, we shouldn't be too comfortable with this win. I mean, I'm glad we won. I'm really glad because it's our fifth straight win in a row, if I'm not mistaken,
In the league,
Serie
yeah.
A, which makes us rise above the table and maybe also our
Hold on,
expectations.
don't finish that thought yet. We're gonna get into that. Don't finish
Okay,
that thought
okay.
just yet. Let us finish the
But
game, then we're gonna get
but
into it.
this was a very very weak side. So it
Yeah.
to me it feels it fills me with a bit of confidence because we got that win in. But on the other hand, it also makes me start questioning our team once again because we needed so much effort to get that goal in against a team that pretty much can concede goals from anywhere and at any time, any given time. So it's a knife that cuts at both ends.
So we saw right before the goal. Actually, I thought it was after, but right before the goal, we saw Kalulu return to the side. I think that he really was giving Gatti his first break, I believe, since December. Just a few minutes at the end of the game. I think he didn't seem like he had lost a step despite being out for quite some time. He looked pretty composed back there, albeit potentially due to Verona's sort of lack of attacking intent. But Damiano, was it nice to see Kalulu back out on the pitch?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, we could definitely use him back there for sure.
Alrighty, I got maybe the hardest question of the day, and it's no. It's not the are we gonna win the Scudetto question. It's the was that a handball in the 84th minute? Damiano's face. If y'all are watching us on Spotify or YouTube, Damiano's face I think kind of tells the story. Damiano, was that a handball?
I'm holding it in, man. I'm holding it in. I think it's one of many calls this season that have. I'm very. It's just got swept under the rug. LeVar just falls asleep, or they don't do their job. I mean, it's clear as day. It's a handball, in my opinion. Hands extended away from the body. Looks like it hits him in the hand, the arm. I don't know why that wasn't called the handball.
Yeah, it looked Locatelli is a streaking Locatelli, which is strange to even say, was going through the box. He kind of puts a shot or a crosser or flail at the ball. The defender's arms are kind of like in a T pose. The ball comes up, hits it. Seems to be kind of in the armpit area, sort of bicep area. Frederic, is that a pen?
You can give a pen, but you can also keep play continue.
What is that? Argue the upper arm? I mean, upper arm is
I think chest area, armpit area, so it's a bit difficult to judge. In my opinion, if I'd seen it, like when I saw it without the replay, I immediately yelled, handball.
Mm-hmm.
After looking at the replay, I can understand why the VAR or the referee has a bit of an issue, but in all fairness, I've seen handballs given this season to other teams that are positioned better than us, table wise. I don't know. It's shall I?
Two gentlemen walking on eggshells right here.
I digress, but no, but I think at that stage of the game, you have to be consistent as well and just give that handball out because it was to me clear as day that He placed his body in a way to block the shot, which is allowed. But on the other hand, if you could see his shoulder coming in with that movement as well. So there was some intent there, to block the ball with his armpit. But is the armpit part of and which part of the ball touched the arm, etc., etc. But I think you should just give that penalty. I think we've been punished way too much this season in terms of VAR decisions or referee decisions, which is not a novelty for Juventus last few years. But this was, in my opinion, a clear-cut penalty. And
Frederick, I have a question for you, bud.
yeah,
If that was it, let's say it's Verona that's attacking and Juventus defending, do you think that's given handball?
no, because there was no chance in hell that Verona was going to win this game.
They were never going to attack. Yeah,
No, I get it.
Game, Damiano.
But if the same thing happened,
If it was another team over a more critical point in the game, like a 0-0, I could clearly see the decision going to Verona, to be honest. And that's the thing that bothers me most, because we thought with the VAR that we could get some consistency within certain decisions, but it's gotten even worse, I think.
way
It's
worse.
gotten even worse. And also the goal scoring and play that keeps on continuing with a possible offside. It gets the passion out of the game for me. And if you back it up with good choices, then I'm all for it. But the choices that have been made this season, and not just at Juventus, but also other teams, these are abysmal choices. I mean, this whole VAR thing needs to be reconsidered, in my opinion.
Taking the flip side, not pitting this on VAR. VAR only steps in if they think there's a material mistake, and if the ref, who was well positioned, says, "I saw it. I know his arm was extended. I know it was upper arm, but I think that I thought it was on the upper arm side of legal." Is VAR going to really change his mind in that situation? Because then VAR goes from being sort of an objective thing to an advocate. And if that's what he told me and I'm VAR, then I'd probably be like, okay, you saw it, that's what you feel. It wasn't like it was his elbow, right? So we don't know if it was VAR or whether it was the on-field referee who said, "I saw it. It was good for me." So, but I think most of us would say that more times than not, that is given as a penalty. And it just seemed curious and was frustrating that to not see it against us, despite us being a lead at the time. But we didn't need it, right? We get a second goal a few minutes later. Montipo, who I think would be pretty solid all game, though most shots seem to be right at him, has maybe one of the worst distributions ever, passes it right to Alberto Costa, gives it to Mbangula, one-touch pass to a streaking. Why is everyone streaking? Okay, to whatever Coop Miners is doing. He's streaking Coop Miners, and who with his weaker foot puts it near post to get a goal. I think one that seals the win, professional win, 2-0. But sometimes getting a goal like that really can liberate a player. Frederick, I'm not going to go to Damiano because I know what his thoughts of Coop Miner are, but Frederick, could this be the sort of the liberation that Coop needs, maybe, to just kind of reset a little bit and start anew?
I hope so, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I think he's in too deep. Like he's a fish out on the dry every time he plays. I think what Coop Miners needs is just the end of the season to approach really quickly, so he can use that month of vacation, mentally and physically, to just regain his composure and then start afresh with the preparation. I think that's something that is inherent with Coop Miners, because if you check out his stats, and I know, Zach, you're a stat guy and our analyst, and like I said, I think the day before yesterday, you do a hell of a job with that. But if you could see his stats with Atalanta, was that he starts fairly slowly, August, September wise, then starts growing, and peaks somewhere between January, March, steadily, like every season. And this is something that he hasn't shown us this year. And I think he just needs preseason, that preseason to really grind and to really get into shape and build and gain confidence. And then I think we can see the real gold minus. But he has an unlucky season. The weight of the jersey is not to be underestimated as well. And the price tag, he still has that price tag on his neck, and mentally it can really block a player.
Well, you mentioned preseason. Well, it was very clear he did not get any preseason with us. His transfer dragging out to the very end, and then him getting kind of thrown in as soon as he joined us. So I tend to agree with you that an off season will work wonders for him. Probably Douglas Luiz as well. But as we push for, and we're going to kind of get into it now, as we push towards the end of the season, there's a sneaking suspicion, or at least the odds are increasing, that there might be something more to play for here than just top four. As the table stands, and that's kind of me putting we're going to transition from the game to what this game means, okay? We're sitting at 27 games played. That's 11 to go. We currently are sitting 6 points behind Inter, who's in 2 competitions. They got a lot of games to be played still. We play Atalanta this weekend, who we are 3 points behind. We beat them. We would have, if the first tiebreaker is head-to-head, we would have the first tiebreaker on Atalanta. So if we beat Atalanta next weekend, we would be third. Boys, is the Scudetto race on? Is this real talk now? I mean, we joked about it a couple of times, but Damiano, is this realistic at this point? Should we be talking more about it?
I think we should just focus on the next game in hand and just keep trying to get 3 points per game. I mean, we'll let everything else fall into place. If it does, it does. But I think we just need to focus on the game at hand and getting all 3 points.
Frederic, dare you to dream?
I dare to dream.
He dares to. Yes, there it is.
This is maybe the most positive thing I said in my career at Turin Giants up until now.
I would agree with that.
but no, I mean, factually, it's doable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a 6-point lead, which is basically 2 games. And if you see the way that Inter is playing at the moment, Napoli as well, they're not the same teams as they were back in September, October, let's be honest. And that's also because, especially with Inter, you have the number of games they're playing. It's really taken its toll on the team. So, yeah, it's possible, definitely. However, you need to be very strong mentally as a team to say, okay, we're 6 points behind. We're not going to miss any steps. We're going all out. We're going to do this. We're going to help each other. And I don't think that our team at this point is mature enough to do that, to get together as a group and say, okay, this is possible. Let's try. A slight chance, like a 1% chance, but 1% is better than nothing. Let's give it our all. I don't feel that the group is there yet. However, it could turn really quickly. I can see Inter losing points this weekend again, and if we pull out a rabbit out of the hat against Atalanta, you're looking at maybe 3 points difference, and then it starts getting tangible.
If you had asked me yesterday, I would have said everything depended on this Verona result, because we had just had one of the, if not the worst showings of the year against Empoli in the Copa. And if we did not answer that game in the right way, there would be no business, in my opinion, of talking Scudetto with this squad. Despite the fact that competitions take different complexions. We know this. You got to answer an absolute horror show like that the right way. And with the effort the team showed today for the full 90 minutes, despite lacking a little bit of a clinical touch, we, I think, have put that to bed. And I would have no problem. In fact, if I was coach of Juventus, I would go into that locker room after the win today and say, look, we know things have to go our way, but we're going to play for the Scudetto. Every game is a must win. And that's how we're going to approach the rest of the season. The Empoli result is off our back, and we have 11 games, no other competitions to push for it. And it starts with, you talk about Damiano, it starts with the Atalanta game. Obviously, if we can't beat Atalanta, then we have no business being talked about in the Scudetto race. But with 6 points, I mean, in the last 5 games, Napoli has dropped 11 points in the last 5 games. We just need them to drop 5, right? As we go. In the last 5 games, Inter has dropped 8 points. We only need them to drop 6. And of course, win out, right? So it's I think it's definitely there. I don't think we'll get it, but I think the team should focus on it. I think it's something tangible that they can hold on to after dropping out of the 2 competitions so recently. Let's push for it. Let's go for it. You got a young team. You don't have these other competitions that, say, Inter is competing in. Go for it and see what happens. I think that's something tangible that they can hold on to keep them going the rest of this year instead of the nebulous top 4 thing. Damiano, do you want to say, I mean, I know you said to take it one game at a time, but how would you approach that team talk? Would you even bother mentioning it, or would you just say, or it would just be like blinders on Atalanta?
Yeah, let's just focus on Atalanta. I mean, it's, I hope and I think we can do it. It's possible, but I just think that, there's other things that also need to fall in place that are kind of out of our hands. If we just focus on getting these wins, like we should have been doing since day one. I mean, you kind of need to go in every game thinking, let's get these 3 points and let's, take it one at a time. Let's take each half at a time even. Yeah, I mean, I'd like to just focus on the game at hand, and because we don't want to drop any points either. It's the big part of it's we have to win out or get all 3 points at each game too.
Yep.
So if we do our part, other things can happen for sure.
And I agree with you. I think it would be unwise not to recognize where Lazio is in the table.
Yeah,
I mean, Lazio pull out a super late minute win at the San Siro against Milan to stay 2 points behind us. I mean, that was a must-win game for Milan. They couldn't pull it off, hindered by a red card, and so Lazio is still hot on our tail. And so I would give the Scudetto speech in the locker room, but that doesn't mean you look over your opposition. You treat every. I think my point is you treat every game like a final, because even if you were to stumble, you got Lazio breathing down your neck, and we can't. And we talked ad nauseum about this, but from a financial and sporting standpoint, losing top 4 would be catastrophic at this point. I do want to highlight one milestone for this team, a very important one. For the first time since the beginning of the season, we finally have as many wins as draws. So we have we have
we
13
made it, boys.
We made it. It was match day 4, I think, where we were 2 wins and 2 draws, right? And then ever since, it's just been more draws, right? So now match day 27, we have finally re-equalized wins and draws. We are 13-1. Is that a good thing? Does that make you laugh, or does that make you cry, Federic?
It makes me laugh because I've been crying all season. So let's take the positive for what it is. But I mean, if you put it into perspective as well, we start winning now. Like we've won 5 straight games, which is very good because we haven't seen it since the beginning of the season. But it goes hand in hand with other teams losing points. And statistically speaking, we only have 11 games left. So if we keep our form for another 5 games, which should be doable, then we might well be top of the league after another 5 straight wins, which is not something that's unfannable or inconceivable or whatever. And I'd use that as a coach with regards to your question, Zach, about Damiano, about how would you approach it in the locker room. I'd just say, boys, we've won 5 straight games. If we pull this off again and we win another straight 5, we're top of the table.
So just not to get into it because we've kind of exhausted our time, I think, for today. But the next 5 matches are first off, as we've mentioned, Atalanta on the 9th, then Fiorentina, a tough game, especially because if I'm not mistaken, Moise Kean's been cleared to play, and they haven't been the same without him. Genoa, Roma, who with us is the hottest team in Serie A, both 5 wins on the bounce for Roma and Juventus, and then Lecce. So three tough competitors for Champions League in the next 5. So if we were to come out 5 of those, that would be a giant statement because there's some tricky fixtures there. Definitely some tricky fixtures. With both Roma and Fiorentina, if I'm not mistaken, being away. So that's just something to look forward on. We'll, of course, here at Turn Giants, keep you posted, win, loss, or draw, with our post-game content. Damiano, did I miss anything? Did we cover it all?
Yeah, sounds like we did. I mean, from what I recall, we did.
Man of the match. We forgot the man of the
Oh,
match.
man of the match.
I take
Yes.
that back. I take that back. Thank you for that.
Sorry.
I forgot. No, you're
Just
good.
give it a mind.
It's like right before I'm like, okay, guys, this is what we're going to talk about. This, that, the other, and man of the match. And of course, I forgot my own outline. Alrighty, Damiano, man of the match, and then we'll end it.
Oh, I'll go with. I mean, I'll go with. I mean, I wanted to say Loca, but I'm going to go with Kefren just because I feel like I really like Locatelli's play, but I think Kefren got the first goal, and that kind of got my nerves a little settled down. So I'll just go with Thuram.
Federic.
Kelly.
Really?
Yeah, I think he didn't do anything wrong. Was very strong technically, which surprised me because he didn't strike me as a technical player, but the things he did technically were near to perfection. Very good positioning, and what I liked a lot, he was very communicative with the rest of the team, midfield and the rest of the center or wing backs. And yeah, he really surprised me, to be honest. And I thought he played a flawless game, in my opinion.
I think the first couple games he played with us, I was nervous with his physicality. That he wasn't being physical enough, I should say. And I think he's sort of maybe bedded into the team and into the league a little bit because he didn't seem intimidated and hasn't seemed intimidated with the physicality of the league of the people he's going against. And I agree, it was a good showing. My player of the match is Andrea Cambiaso. Guy had 100 touches, 76 of 78 passing. That's 97% for you out there. Created 4 chances, got the assist. And I think this is the first game in a couple months where we've seen Andrea Cambiaso of the first half of the season, who just was such a dynamic player in all 3 phases of play, contributing positively throughout. And so just wanted to recognize his fantastic performance, though you could have given it to a lot of players like Locatelli as well. It's rare that you see a game where the most touches and the most passes aren't from center backs, and both Cambiaso and Locatelli outpassed our defenders today, showing you just how influential they were in our game of play.
Is Cambiaso leaving? What do you think, Zach? Is he taking his suitcase at the end of the season, heading towards lovely old Manchester?
He probably is, and I think you give him more performances like this, you then bring in an $80 million fee, and I will greatly appreciate his contribution to the team. Wish him the best, and then look very closely at how the management spends that money. If he stays, I would love it. I think we all see in the first half of the season in a game like today that there's a really good player there. There's a really good player that contribute positively to our team. And so I'd want to keep him, but you have to be realistic of the status of Juventus as a club, that if someone comes with $80 million, you take it and you turn that into 2 or 3 players to round out your roster and make you the mainstay power in Italian football that we had been and have unfortunately strayed from.
You could buy a Koopmeiners and a half with that money.
Hey,
That's one
Coop's
for
not-
you, Damiano.
Thank you.
Coop's going nowhere. Coop's going nowhere. They're not going to sell him after 1 year, whether you like it or not. That's just what it is. All right, everybody. Frederic, Damiano, thank you so much for coming and talking Juventus with us today. For everyone listening, we absolutely love doing this for you. Please hit us up on Instagram. Give us your thoughts. Give us your comments. If you can, throw us a 5-star rating or hit us up on YouTube and subscribe to that, to our Turin Giants official, our new our YouTube channel. With that, though, I believe Farhad is cooking up some longer narrative style episode that we might be recording later this week. So we will obviously keep you all entertained. So tune in for that. And in the meantime, have an absolutely lovely week. From all us Turin Giants, goodbye.
I was caught in the middle of a railroad track. Looked around and I knew there was no turning back. My mind raced and I thought, what could I do? And I knew there was no help from you. Sound of the drums beating my heart, the thunder of guns tore me apart. You've been thunderstruck.